What's up, you guys? Oh my gosh, I feel like I have not done an actual YouTube video in forever. Like, I've posted music videos and stuff, but y'all have not seen me in a while. So I probably have some new subscribers on here. So welcome. If you don't know me, my name is Sherri Amoure, and I am an independent R&B artist. By the title of the video, y'all see that today we're gonna be getting into something a little serious, a little touchy, but you know, let me just explain something about me real quick, y'all. I am a very, very, very quiet person. I've been this way all my life, and I don't know, I just feel like part of it is because I have lived so much life, and there's so much that I could say that half the time I don't even know where to start. So we're gonna be delving a little bit into my story today. The most important moments, I would say, that kind of shaped me into who I am and the artist that I am. I'm going to be exposing a lot of things that I have never talked about to anybody for real other than my therapist in my life. There have been people who have known me for years that don't know some of the information that you are going to discover in this video. So I just feel like I'm at a point where I've healed to a certain point where I could talk about certain things that I've never really disclosed before. Just to kind of help anybody else who may have gone through or may be going through anything that I have went through. And also to those of you who listen to my music, especially my latest album, Trdrama Class, the remaster. What you're going to hear today is going to give you a lot of context behind the music. So it's like, with what I'm going to tell y'all, if y'all go back and y'all listen to the music, or if you have listened to the songs, I would say if you haven't, don't just yet, watch this video first. But if you have, you might want to go back and revisit after you learn everything that I'm about to tell y'all today. And I'm coming with it. I am going to be exposing a lot of people, a lot of things, and I'm coming with receipts because I feel like the life that I have lived, if I did not have proof, I don't feel like people would even believe half of the things that I have gone through. So let's talk about the remaster of Trdrama Class a little bit before we delve all the way into my story, because it was more than just a re-release for me. Like, that album in general was like really me putting so much of my personal business like out into the world. Like, the album was so vulnerable to the point where I almost damn near like shelved it and didn't even put it out by the time I finished recording it. Like, it was hard to even edit and mix and master. Yes, I do that all myself. So it was just like very, very emotional to even make this album, right? So the album hits on a lot of things that I've been through, from SA to abuse to pregnancy to depression, PTSD, panic disorder, baby, what else? Probably about anything and everything you can think of. Child abandonment, abuse, abandonment in general. Yeah, we hit on and talk about a lot of things in this album. So the documentary is kind of just like giving you more context, as I said, into the songs and into my life so that you understand the music. I'm gonna show you guys part one of the Trdrama Class documentary, and there's supposed to be a part two, but just to give you guys a little bit more insight, part two is not made because as I was creating part one, I was actively going through fleeing abuse. So I don't know, I felt like part one was a little bit rushed, but it did kind of get to the point. But part two was really going to be getting into the nitty gritty. But part one is really, really important as well. You can't have part two without part one. So if you guys want part two and you're invested in part one, I'm gonna need y'all to like leave a comment below. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Let me know that you want to see part 2, because I'm honestly and truthfully probably not even going to delve into it if y'all are not interested, because a lot of these things are hard for me to talk about. But again, like I said, I feel like I've healed to a point where I feel like I can talk about these things and can open up about a little bit of these things. So this is going to be the story of, honestly and truthfully, how my music, this album, all of it just kind of saved my life, honestly and truthfully. So I'll stop rapping and I'll let y'all get to it. Here is part 1 of the Trdrama Class documentary. My name is Sherri Curtis, better known by my stage name Sherri Amoure, and I am an independent multidisciplinary artist. I call myself a multidisciplinary artist just simply because I am multi-talented. It was so hard to give myself just a title as a singer because I do more beyond sing. R&B is my main jam, but I do rap as well. I've really been sick of not eating and crying. I've really been sick of you fucking lying. I missed all the red flags, ignored all the signs, but right here is where I gotta draw the line. I can fuse into hip hop sometimes. I do also write my own music, and then I also mix and master my own music, and then I also film a lot of my own videos, take a lot of my own pictures, I edit them, I produce them, I write for them. I just do a lot. So when it came down to putting a title on all of that, it had to be a multidisciplinary artist, because it started to begin to be a mouthful to say. I would describe my musical style as a fusion of old school and new school R&B. The Motown, the oldies but goodies, mixed with that 90s, 2000s music. Fusing those together, I feel like you have the Sherri Amoure sound. People often ask about my physical style, and I feel like I give really 90s Aaliyah vibes. Aaliyah is someone I always get compared to when it comes to my style of dress. I love me a crop top, I love me some baggy pants. That 90s Aaliyah style, I will rock a bandana. I just love bandos. That late 90s, early 2000s look. That's kind of the era that I'm stuck in with the way that I dress. The kids call it Y2K. I think that's ugly, but that's what they say it is. My mom passed away from breast cancer when I was just a year old. A lot of the things that have happened to me in life, I feel like they wouldn't have happened if my mother had still been here. I really don't have a lot of memories of her because I was so young. But I have a whole lot of pictures of her, and I really cherish those pictures. My dad raised me by himself from that point on. My dad was one of those hardcore old school black men. He loved himself some oldies but goodies music, some Motown music. That's pretty much all I grew up listening to. I really wasn't even allowed to consume the music of my time until I started going to school, hearing it other places, because at home I wouldn't really hear much of it. Me and my dad would listen to artists like Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, The Temptations, Larry Graham, James Brown. Some of my favorites, loved me some Gladys Knight. She's one of my biggest inspirations. Donna Summer, Patti LaBelle, Tina Turner, you know, all of the greats. I would watch these DVDs called the Midnight Special. It was reruns of the actual show that used to come on back in the day, and I would sit there in front of the TV as a child, just like bright-eyed, like, wow, I really love what they do. I want to do that. Those were some of the earliest moments I can think of where I really knew deep down that that was what I wanted to do. You know how parents always ask their children that question, and all parents ask at some point, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Every single time I was asked that question by anybody, I always said I wanted to be a singer, and to this day, it never wavered. I knew what I was put on this earth to do from a very, very young age. My dad actually discovered my singing voice on a random day. There was this song that we used to sing together called Your Love by Larry Graham. That was one of my favorite songs as a kid. Like, that was my jam. Like, I loved to sing it, and I made my dad play it to death, so much to the point where he got tired of hearing that song. He was just over it. So this one particular day, we were just singing in the car, and I said, "Daddy, I'm gonna sing Your Love." He kind of like scoffed a little bit. He said, "You know what? We can sing it one time, I'll play it one time." In my head, I was like, that's all I needed. My dad sang his part, and it got to the woman's part on the song, and I belted those lyrics out with everything in my little baby body. I guess I sounded so good to the point where my dad had to pull over. He stopped the car, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he just said, "Go ahead, girl." That's a moment that I never will forget, and I've literally been singing ever since. I lost my dad in my 11th grade year of high school. It was like one of the most devastating moments of my life. My daddy was my world. He was pretty much all that I had. I didn't even realize how much all that I had really meant and how much it would really hit until I didn't have him anymore. When he passed away, he left me to my stepmother, and this was one of my earliest encounters with someone who was narcissistic. The whole situation and living with her and being stuck with her was very, very traumatizing. My stepmother was definitely a mental and emotional abuser. It seemed like that woman woke up with the mission of making sure that I was unhappy. It's like that made her happy somehow, some way. After my dad passed away, things had gotten so strained between the two of us to the point where I had a trauma response, and I completely shut down. I stopped talking. Not even wholesomely stopped talking, but I just stopped being the happy kid that I was, that person to always communicate or always want to be in my caretaker's space and in their face. I just kind of shut down completely. She saw this as a sign of disrespect instead of the trauma response that it was, and her next move was to kick me out. What's crazy is that I knew that I was going to get kicked out. I knew as a very young child that my stepmother was a very weak-minded woman. And I overheard her having a conversation with one of my cousins, one of my blood cousins. She was talking around the whole situation of me not really speaking, not really engaging, and my cousin is on her side with it like, yeah, that's disrespectful and you don't have to deal with that, and if I were you, I would kick her out. When I heard that, I just knew that it was gonna happen. I just sat and I waited for it to happen. It just happened at the most unexpected moment, but like I was already mentally prepared, and honestly and truthfully, I had been wanted to leave that situation just because of how toxic it was and how much it was affecting me mentally, even physically. She had put her hands on me a few times, and it was getting to a point where I knew that if there wasn't something to save me from that situation, I would have either ended up in jail or would have committed suicide. One day, randomly, when I come home from school, and the funniest thing is that I had a camera recording at the time, not like picture, but just the sound, because I was blacking the tape for one of my mass media projects. And she just came into the room pretending like she was on the phone with the police. And I was just in my head like, what the hell is going on? So she throws 2 tubs at me and she's like, pack up as many of your things as possible and you have to get out. Me being as traumatized as I was, I didn't argue. I didn't fuss. I didn't fight. I literally just started grabbing my stuff. The moment that I really remember is going to grab my dad's urn that I was sleeping with because I was still very much mourning my father, or I should say trying to, because I was more so in crisis mode, and the fact that I was in danger mentally and emotionally and physically was keeping me from even being able to mourn my dad correctly. I went to put that urn in one of the tubs and she snatches it from me and she says, "You'll get this at a later date." That kind of crushed me. She waited until I gathered up those 2 tubs of things and I grabbed my dog. She picked up his food, busted the bag open, everything fell all over the ground, and she said, "Well, I guess you're gonna have to figure out how to buy him some more." Mind you, I'm literally 16 years old at the time, a minor, don't know where she expected me to get money from. She drives me to my grandfather's house and literally leaves me there on the sidewalk with 2 tubs of my things and my dog. Beyond the fact that she committed a felony by kicking out a minor child, it could also be something else tacked on to that as well, with child endangerment, because not only did she leave me outside, not even knowing if anybody would open up the door for me, didn't care, drove off some have a nice life type of shit and left me there. The kicker is she left me there to my dad's sister, and she was a really, really bad alcoholic. I had a whole bunch of problems with her when I was younger. This is someone who was able to look me in my face at like 7 or 8 years old and tell me that she hated me. And I felt that from her. Just imagine a grown woman staring a kid straight in the face and saying, "I hate you," for no apparent reason. I had actually had to stay with this aunt before, and I had gotten neglected there before. So my dad, before he passed away, he didn't have me engaging with her. He didn't have me around her. He didn't take me over to my granddad's house or around people who he knew just didn't have my best interest at heart. And to no surprise, just because of how much my stepmother hated me, and I can honestly say that even though she never said it, all of her actions showed that she most definitely hated me. She left me to this aunt knowing that I would be further neglected, further abused. And that was kind of the spark of everything in my life, just kind of like twirling in the wind, literally since 16 years old. From there, I called my aunts on my mom's side. And these are aunts who my dad also felt the need to remove me from because of the fact that they had displayed things that also showed that they did not have my best interests at heart. And as a little kid, I didn't understand. I never understood because I was just like, yo, I want to be around my people. I was so used to being over there. Like I would even call her mommy. Like that was my mom in my eyes. So when my dad took me away, I just didn't understand. But like as I got older, he started explaining things to me. And some of the things that he would explain to me were wild. These aunts, 2 of them, had done some pretty horrible things. Horrible enough for my dad to be like, I don't want my child around that. This is who I ended up calling because I was nearing 17 at the point and I wanted to reconnect with my family. I wanted to know for myself if all of the things that I was told was true. They were aware of my aunt on my dad's side, alcoholism, and all of the things that I could be subjected to having to stay there. And thankfully, they came and got me. When they came and got me, I thought I was safe. I thought that I would be okay, but I was just subjected to more neglect. I was just thankful that it wasn't as overt as it was when it was with my stepmother. It was like more covert. One of them was not emotionally available, and this was the one that I would consider mom. At a time after I had just gone through so much and lost my father, nearing my last year of high school, I'm trying to make sure that I don't flunk out because of all of the stuff going on in my life, and then I have like no emotional support around me for real. It would be times where I would be in the room in her house crying, like bawling, crying, and I know she could hear me through the walls. She would stay locked away in her room. Didn't really engage with me much. It was like I was with a stranger, and I didn't know her anymore, and she didn't know me, and it seemed like she didn't really want to get to know me. With the communication being so trash like that, and the lack of emotional and mental availability for a child that was going through something like that, that also just created a lot of strain. And then there would be moments where I would want to ask her side of the story with some of the things that my dad told me, and she would start talking down on my dad, start shutting me down and talking over me while I'm talking, and doing all of the things to basically shut me up. Having her have that response just kind of let me know that everything that my dad said must have been some type of valid for you to be up in arms and in defense mode so bad. This is someone who turned damn near my mom's whole side of my family against my dad. I still went into the situation with an open heart and an open mind, and I really thought that even if she had done all of these things and everything was true, I thought that maybe with me coming back around and her not having seen me for so many years, she would have been willing to be better, or to show me that she wasn't that person that my dad had painted her out to be. But she proved him right. I ended up having to leave her house. After I had to leave my aunt's house, I landed back at my granddad's house with the drunk aunt, which led to a situation. We ended up in a physical altercation where I had to keep pushing her away from me, and I just kept like pushing her down, and she called the police on me. She called the police on me and said that I was attacking her while swinging a stick at me. A stick that my dad used to walk with when my dad got sick and he had to learn how to walk all over again. She picked that up and she started swinging at me, and while she's on the phone with the police, I'm laughing like, this is hilarious that you're calling these people drunk as hell out of your mind, saying that I'm attacking you as you swing a stick at me. But okay, clearly had to leave that situation. The police didn't even bother to come talk to me because of how drunk and out of her mind she was. She told those policemen she didn't want to be Nicki Minaj, and I lied to y'all not. That's what came out of her mouth. And the whole altercation started simply because someone in the liquor store told her that I was growing up to be a very nice looking young woman. A guy in there that had known me since I was a baby, like just giving me a compliment, and she got jealous at that and came in the house calling me all types of hoes. You a hoe, you this, you that. And this is something that she would do often, and I would sit and I would not say anything back as to respect my elders or whatever have you, but I was so sick and tired of it to the point where I told her to shut the fuck up. And as soon as that came out of my mouth, she flew at me. So that situation ended up happening, and I ended up having to leave there. I had graduated high school with a 3.4 GPA. How, I don't know. Graduated with honors. I walked in. Unfortunately, graduating high school was one of those accomplishments that I couldn't really wholesomely feel as an accomplishment because my aunts decided not to even be there. She wasn't really communicating with me at the time because of something that she was mad about that didn't even really make sense. And it doesn't make sense so much so to the point where I can't even explain it, because I still to this day don't know what her problem was. But she became very avoidant. I was calling, trying to get in touch with her, trying to get her to like help me out with college and stuff, because again, I'm 18 years old, fresh out of high school. What money do I have? And she just started making sure she wasn't available and had my other auntie playing secretary every time I call the house. She's not available, or she's asleep, or she's not feeling well, or her stomach is hurting, or she's in the bathroom. Like, it was always something. She ended up not showing up. It felt like a big ass jab to my chest, because I didn't have very many people outside of them. Because again, like I said, when I lost my dad, I lost everyone. His whole side of the family literally ghosted me. They didn't keep in touch, and to this day they will lie and say that they did, but they considered keeping in touch being my friend on Facebook, not actually reaching out to see if I was okay or even finding out what happened to me, which I don't think that they ever really knew the scope of what happened to me, but it was just the fact that they also did not bother to ask. I know that my stepmother went and told some wild lying story. I wanted to go with my aunts and she just let me go, versus me actually getting kicked out with 2 tubs of my things and my dog and left in the middle of a sidewalk in the DC streets. I only know this because when I was in the process of trying to get into college, trying to do that with no legal guardian, basically, because the legal guardian that I had severed that relationship. So I thought, I didn't know that I could have gone to the police and got her locked up. But going to the police was something that I wasn't even thinking about, because I was thinking wholesomely that they would either throw me back with her or throw me in the system. So as a kid, I'm going through all of these things in my mind, trying to figure out what to do. She told people at the church that she would drag me to, that I just wanted to go with my aunts, and she decided to let me go. Which is something that I feel is really funny, because I asked her, like, if you don't want me, this is prior to me even shutting down and things getting really bad. If you don't want me and you don't like me, like, please just let me go with my aunts. I just want to go with my aunts. Please let me leave. She looked at me and she said, "You think I'm gonna make it that easy on you?" At that moment, I just knew I was in for the worst. She went and told those people at the church that I wanted to leave, had her looking like a saint, and like we just fell out, and like I was just a depressed kid because I lost my dad and I didn't have my biological mom around, and it looked like depression, and she passed it off as depression rather than me being abused. I ended up having to reach out to the church to ask them to write me a letter explaining like what happened and why I can't get the information for my FAFSA from the person that is listed on my legal document as my mother, because when she legally adopted me, my mom's name was taken off of my birth certificate, so it was looking like my biological mom was alive. I ended up moving in with a cousin of mine. Ironically, the cousin was the mother of the cousin who told my stepmother to kick me out. That particular part of my family, my stepmother was somehow able to keep them in her good graces even after what she had done to me, which is something that I always question to this day, because it's like, okay, if the story that she told you guys about letting me go with my aunts because I wanted to, where would the fact that me and her wouldn't even be on speaking terms come in? I feel like if any of them cared about me, they would have cared to ask, how was I doing? Where was I? What was going on in my life? To which my stepmother had none of those answers because we were not in communication with each other. The only time after being kicked out that I was in communication with that woman, I was told to reach out to her if I wanted anything that I had left behind. And I had bullet pointed a list of things that I left that I wanted. And she sent me back like nasty emails. I think like one of the things I asked her was my TV. Oh, it was tossed when you left or something like that, as if I moved out versus being kicked out. Asking for my daddy's urn, which she said I'll get back at a later date. And her response was, I'm his next of kin. That's my husband. And what's funny is that I know to this day that she did not care to keep that urn because it was her husband. She cared to keep that urn because it would hurt me. And she knew that it would hurt me, and she knew how close me and my dad were. And again, that he was the only thing that I had. And that was just like her final stab at me. That was something that she tried to hold over my head. I actually did try to reach out to her for that again, because the cousin that I stayed with had told me, oh, she said if you want your dad's urn, you can call her and schedule a time to come pick it up. And I reached out and she sent me a message back saying, sorry, you've been misinformed. Peace. The evilest person, like, how you could treat a child like that has never disrespected you, never done anything to you, is really wild and crazy. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, you're the realest. Go ahead and drop a music note in the comments if you made it this far. There is about 20 minutes left of part 1. You can get the full video with the link in the description box below. So part 1 comes with the purchase of the Trdrama Class Remaster on Even. I don't know why I was so slow to say that. I'm so sorry, y'all, I'm lagging. But part 1 comes with the Trdrama Class Remaster on Even. It's gonna be $10. If you want, you can get the album, and then that way you have the album and the video together. You automatically get access to the rest of part 1 when you get the album on Even. So oh my gosh, you guys, again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you want part 2, again, let me know below in the comments. Let me know if you're invested. Let me know what you guys think in general, or like how you feel, or if you feel like you're related to any part of what you've heard thus far. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys later.